One second. How's it going, folks? Happy Monday, July 1st. I got a hot one for you today on the line. This man has shared the screen with Oscar winners like Sylvester Stallone, Tommy Lee Jones, Samuel L. Jackson, Nicolas Cage. You've seen him on shows like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Sons of Anarchy, and he's just an all-around everyman. I'm talking about the one and only Mr. Brian Van Holt, and he has a new film coming out tomorrow called Boneyard, where he co-stars with 50 Cent and Mr. Mel Gibson. Welcome to the line, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. How you doing?
I'm blessed. I can't complain. So one of the
I-
first things I want to say about the film was what I really enjoyed about it was the approach you guys took from a creative standpoint, how it's about a serial killer, but it's not necessarily about the actual killing and the gore. It's more so about solving the crime and different facets of law enforcement coming together to work together to solve this particular crime. So what was your research process and method to get ready for this role?
well, I mean, to be honest, I come from a family full of cops. So I grew up in this world. My uncle was a detective, and all my cousins, ended up being sergeants, chief, and whatnot. Um, and when I was shooting, I shot a show called Deputy in Albuquerque. I lived there for 8 months, and I got to spend a lot of time with the APD and became friends and had relationships with a lot of their detectives that worked. Some of them actually worked on this case, and the specific case that was inspired by, or our story was inspired by. Uh, so I was, by the time I read the script, I was already pretty well, informed about this specific this world. But for an actor, for me, I think this character, has a lot of he's got a lot of we'll just say demons. I've been using that word. He's got a lot of demons he's got to contend with, and this specific case is personal for Detective Ortega. Um, and so I mean, I just, so I'm just trying to find a way that something in there, something that I could relate to make it personal, and that's something that drives me. If there's I think my character has to redeem himself for something that he feels like he did wrong or didn't fulfill. Um, and I can relate to that because there's things in my life that I feel like I could redeem myself from, and certainly there's things that I could have fulfilled. And then I spent a lot of time, as I said, I have a lot of relationships with homicide detectives and detectives in general. I've done a lot of, cop shows and military shows, and my family, they're all cops. So I understand some of the dynamics that go on personally with being, with playing a role like this.
So this time you had a chance to work with Curtis 50 Cent Jackson again. You guys previously collaborated on Den of Thieves. Wait on that sequel to come out. But how
Yeah,
was it
right.
working with Mr. Jackson again?
I love 50. I'll do I want I say we did 10 of Thieves together. It's our second film. He's great. One thing a lot of people don't know about 50, and maybe you do, but he's got such a great sense of humor. I want him to do a comedy. I want to do a comedy with him. I said that when I first met him on Den of Thieves, and then after doing this, especially because he's got such a sense of humor, and he's so kind, and he's so engaging. Uh, with everyone. He's such a lovely man. Um, and so I'll work with 50 on 10 more films if I could.
Yeah, to piggyback off what you're saying about Mr. 50, yeah, I do think that he has natural comedic timing. Because even if you look at Power when he was Kane, and like he could be ruthless, but he knew how to deliver a one-liner, and it never came off as forced. It always came off as organic. Even in Den of Thieves, the scene with his entourage, and they're pretty much scaring his daughter's boyfriend before he takes her to prom, and he
Yeah.
kept a straight face the entire time, but like the timing was so sharp, and for him not to be coming from a comedy background, yeah, I could definitely see 50 doing comedy in some aspect. And I'm surprised that's the only genre he hasn't tapped into yet because he's pretty much done everything but a
Yeah.
comedy with his films.
And I'm telling you, in between takes, and I'm telling you, he's funny. He's a very witty, funny man. And just a lovely human being, but he needs to do a comedy. Uh, I have an idea. I want to do it with him. I want to do a two-hander comedy with 50. He's funny.
So in addition to 50, you also pretty much, a lot of your scenes are with the legendary Mel Gibson. So how was it working with Mel on this film?
I love working with Mel. At first, I was a big fan. I grew up with Mel being, he's one of my inspirations, and I grew up being just a massive fan of his and respecting his work. And at first, I didn't know how, it can be intimidating, um, but it wasn't that at all. It's a very a gracious, like very committed. He's totally invested in his work, and it's a joy to work with. I got to write. When something wasn't working, he was so dedicated to this, wanted to make it as best as possible. So we were able to write and rewrite, change some dialogue and rewrite a couple scenes here and there. But it was just surreal and an honor to be able to collaborate like that with Mel, especially writing stuff and and really, chopping up a scene and chopping up our characters together. It was fun. And you don't get that too often. A lot of times you do a film like this and you have your major superstars come in and co say their lines and collect their paycheck and they'll be off. I'm not going to name names. Mel's not like that. Mel is he was 100% invested, committed, driven, wanted, I loved working with him. So it was and then again, he's a lot of fun on set. He has a sense of humor. He's so witty, so sharp, so quick, and he too. You probably already know this. He has an amazing sense of humor as well. So, even though our movie's heavy,
Yeah.
he would throw in some, he threw in some improv zingers that broke that tension in between, during takes and in between takes. So it was an honor. I love working with Mel. Again, I'd do 20 more films with him if I could.
And speaking on Mel, having seen the film, one of the things I mentioned in my review was that the arc that his character has, I thought was very strong, and the motivation that the scripts gave his character, for wanting to solve the crime was handled so again organically, and I think it's some of Mel's best work in a long time because they easily could have made Mel into a Liam Neeson type from Taken. Like, he comes in, he's a badass, and he's just knocking everybody out.
Yeah.
But now, like, he has actual motivation and wanting to solve this case. And I don't want to go into spoilers for people that haven't seen it yet, but yeah, it's Mel's arc in this film is a strong one.
And he's such a good actor. He just elevates that role, yeah. And he does have a great his journey. I don't want to spoil it too, but his motivation and his journey and his history and um he just brought so much to that character more than I got when I first read the script and on the page. And you're right, he could have easily made a choice of done a certain version of that, but he just takes it to a whole different three, four, five levels. It's Mel Gibson. He's good.
So for as long as you've been acting, I think the first time I can recall seeing you was way back in 2000 Whipped. And I mean,
Oh my God.
so you've
You're
done
amazing. You're
so
amazing, bro.
so
Whipped.
you've done everything between television and film, and a lot of time in television, like, as you mentioned, you do a lot of guest appearances, one-offs. But do you prefer doing television or do you prefer doing film?
Ugh, that's a tough one. I love making movies. I love making TV shows. I love being on a set. Sometimes the paychecks are better than TV, to be honest. But um, you can have more creative freedom doing films. I mean, if in a perfect world, I'll be honest, I would love to, I prefer probably doing films and movies compared to TV. But the TV, it's a different landscape today. The best writing, I think, for the most part, for example, like Bass Reeves, the best shows, the best writing are on TV. It's not network TV. Those are quality shows on quality streamers and whatnot. But um, So I guess traditionally I would prefer, but like the film I did on, like, or the work that we did on Bass Reeves and that they did, it's more like a, traditional film, and the quality is just so high. Um, but as a regular, it's fun, it's fun to come in and play. I love doing guest spots or arcs. Um, those tend to be the most challenging and layered roles. Um, and you also get to mix it up. Sometimes, I did a show for, after doing something for 5 years, you're kind of twitching to do something different. So it's nice to mix it up. Hope that answers your question.
It does.
Okay.
Uh, all right, folks. I want to thank Mr. Van Holt for taking time out of his busy schedule to chop it up with me. And you all can catch Boneyard VOD tomorrow, July the 2nd, and limited theaters this Friday. Check it out. My review grade was a B. Till the next time, done out.